thank you so much for agreeing to do this with us. Food for Thought has been we've conceived of this weekly lecture series right when the pandemic shut us down for in-person instruction. And this was a way for the program to stay engaged with students, to provide a little bit of a social outlet outside of the classroom while still keeping their minds on relevant policy topics. So we've had numerous guests and friends of the program, professors and experts in their fields. And today we're extremely honored to have you, Dana, with us. And you will be discussing the topic of who will shape tomorrow's cities using augmented reality to democratize and improve urban development. Dana is an entrepreneur in residence at Schmidt Futures and the founder and CEO of In Situ, and she will talk a little bit more, I hope, about that in her presentation. Just really quick, the format is that Dana, you will talk for about 20 to 30 minutes, I believe. Present your topic, and then we will open it up to your questions. It will be a very interactive session. You can type in chat. We ask that you don't interrupt the session because there will be plenty of opportunity for you to speak afterwards. And this session will be recorded so that we can share it on our website afterwards. And you can go to our website as well to check out all the wonderful lectures that we've had up until this point. And we will continue to do so every week on Wednesdays. So without further ado, I will introduce Bill Emick, the Executive Director of the Picker Center for Executive Education and founding director of the EMPA program, the Executive Master of Public Administration. Please take it away, Bill.
Thank you, Valerie, and thank you and Jeremy Savala, who is our colleague, who the three of us have been working on this series now for going into our third academic year. Except for short summer breaks, we've been on the air pretty consistently every Wednesday at noon. So please, as Valerie said, check out the website. All our previous talks are there. They're recorded. If they presented a paper, the paper is there as well. And it's a wide array of people from all three sectors, from all over the world, talking about really the mission of SEPA in all sorts of different ways. And that is, our mission is making the world a better place. That's why we're here. That's what we do, both in our degree and non-degree programs and in our consulting and teaching and writing and everything else. And I was privileged to meet Dana at a Zoom conference, which is the only kind of conferences we have these days. Hopefully someday we'll have conferences in person again, discussing how we might use some of the damage that the pandemic caused, which changed, among other things, the way we live and where we live, creating opportunities to perhaps reuse office space for affordable housing, which is one of the 4-day work week and using office space for housing are two of my big issues, innovative issues for the post-COVID world. But Dana has been working on using technology in a way that can really turbocharge community participation and engagement, which has all sorts of benefits, I think, in terms of making our community stronger, making people stronger, moving it more toward a fair and equal society and more of a united society. We don't have to agree on everything, but if the more we know each other, I think the more we realize that we share a lot of common interest. And many of us, even though we may disagree on certain policies, our hearts are in the same place. So the more people are engaged, the more we know, the more we know, the more we can talk, the more we can talk, the more we can reach consensus. So she's an entrepreneur, she's a thought leader, she's an activist, she's a mother. I know she's a mother because everybody's on Zoom. So I haven't met her family, but I've seen them. I feel like I know her even better than I do. So Dana, thank you so much for being with us, and we'll turn the program over to you.
Thank you so much, Bill, for this warm introduction, and thank you, Valerie, for helping setting this up. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and I'm really honored to be part of this speaker series at SIPA. And I could not agree more with how Bill described the challenges and opportunities of today's planning and incorporating technology into the planning process. And this is exactly what we'll be discussing. As Valerie said, I'm an architect in my background from Tel Aviv, Israel, moved to New York, to Brooklyn 4 years ago to study urban data science in NYU CASP, so not in Columbia, but Center for Urban Science and Progress. After graduation, I interned in the Department of City Planning for 6 months here in New York. And the idea of In Situ, which we will be discussing in a minute, is going with me since my days as an architect in Tel Aviv. My background before architecture is from the simulation world. I served in the Israeli Air Force as a F-15 flight simulator trainer. So I spent 3 years of my life in a flight simulator, transforming a very complex and risky process into much more efficient and collaborative and iterative. So that's what I try to do with city planning today. So I think I will start, if that's okay, with sharing my screen. Happy to answer any questions later on. Let's see that everything is working. Wait. Share this. Everybody sees everything? Good. Okay, so who will shape tomorrow's cities using augmented reality to democratize urban development? So maybe let's start with who shapes today's cities. What are the forces that helps or make our cities change? And this is something that I'm fascinated by since the day I started learning architecture. I figure out pretty quickly that it's not just the design or the planning rules or laws that shape our cities, but many more forces out there. So if we start to count them, we have all the retail that is changing and require us to rethink of retail spaces, of parking and loading, unloading spots, and what's the value of this or the uses of our streets. We have how we move around with Uber, Lyft, etc., and all the micro mobility, which totally change what types of neighborhoods are reachable or available, and some transportation deserts became suddenly closer to job centers. On the other end, caused many more traffic and congestion, of course, life injuries and air pollution. How we work, so all the co-working spaces over there change, and of course today with work from home, we rethink offices spaces and where people live, how people live and work, what is work-life balance, etc. Of course, most relevant example of changing cities is one virus that completely made us rethink again how we use our streets, what makes a neighborhood livable and resilient. And I live in Brooklyn, where many families with young children are. I personally gave birth to my third child 6 weeks before the first lockdown, so I was here, didn't go anywhere. And my neighborhood compared to Manhattan and Wall Street, stayed as alive as possible, because we had young children, small businesses here, and young families, while places that didn't have any residential completely went vacant. And it made me think a lot of, again, what makes our cities resilient and strong, especially during crises such as COVID, and how communities are the kind of secret sauce of this livability. Of course, the navigation apps, another type of shaping our cities and how we use them, like silence and quiet neighborhoods became traffic routes for ways and such, bringing lawsuits to these companies. And of course, Pokemon Go or Yelp, which changes the 311, again, micromobility. And it seems like everything is changing and our cities are barely keeping up the pace, but we all feel so smart. Like our cities are very smart. Everyone says smart cities. And my question is, really? And are we really that smart if planning cannot keep up with these changes and be one step ahead of all these forces that requires cities to adapt and to change? And to me, until we make planning smart and make cities more adaptive and more equitable and more equipped to deal with these massive and rapid changes, we cannot call ourselves and our cities truly smart. And that's kind of so going back to my story, I worked as an architect for 6 years in the city center of Tel Aviv. I don't know how many of you know Tel Aviv. It's small but very aggressive urban development realm. And I saw all these forces of politics, of technology, of innovation, of finance, of feasibility, grassroots root forces versus top-down, history, and of course, at the end, zoning shape my city. And felt, coming with my experience as a simulator trainer, felt that city planning has failed by now to use technology to the benefit of cities. And the problem, in short, is that city planning is practically outdated. It's too cumbersome, too inaccessible to people to ignite the quality and pace of urban renewal needed in an area of rapid urban changes as we saw them. We will not stop the changes out there. We need to work with them. We need to be able to better adapt and better react to them with better predictions. And I believe that technology today can do it, and that people are ready to take this technology and use it for the better future of cities. If we take this problem and break it down to what it's built from or what's the cost, so poor communications of what is planning, what are city planning processes, result in major distrust between city stakeholders, which, as I see them, generally is the public sector, like the city planning agency or city officials, the urban development private sector, which is investors, real estate developers, and architects, and the public, the general public. These three groups keep fighting, while I believe, as Bill said before, that eventually all our hearts are at the same place and we all want to build better future. Because of this major distrust, the process overall is skewed towards lobbyists and NIMBYism. I guess everyone here knows what NIMBY is, not in my backyard, which is used today as opposition to any change or any development, and specifically diversification and densification of neighborhoods. The people that matter do not have a voice. And if I'm taking this back to my COVID experience here in Brooklyn, it struck me back then how the people who stayed here are exactly the people who don't have the access to effectively participate and raise their voice in regards to the future of their neighborhoods, and the people who usually control the process were the first ones to take it out and just go to their houses anywhere else, while young parents and essential workers stayed here. And of course, another part of the cost or the end result is that projects are being delayed or rejected, which of course is a lot of money that is spent or thrown away, and just worse city planning process. If cities cannot change effectively, they cannot adapt effectively to whatever needed to be adapted to. And that's why I founded In Situ. In Situ is an augmented reality powered city planning app. In situ, the Latin phrase means in the original place, with a C for city. The idea goes with me since my days as an architect in Tel Aviv, when I worked there, and I kind of knew what will be built where. When I walk down the streets, I figure out that I'm not supposed to be the only one who sees that. It's all public knowledge, but people do not know how to access this knowledge. And why can't people just take their phone and see the future of their streets layered on top of the existing built environment? And this is exactly what In Situ is doing. Our mission is to democratize urban development through immersive experience using technology in order to build inclusive, resilient cities through strong and engaged communities. As Jane Jacobs said, cities have the capability of providing something for everybody only because and only when they are created by everybody. And I truly believe that this is true. And I also believe that technology today can allow us this ideal future. So what is In Situ? Literally an AR-powered civic engagement app that brings the future of cities into people's hands. We layer 3D building models of planning proposals on top of the built environment in their urban context, allowing residents and policymakers to seamlessly see, understand the impact, and raise their voice in regards to the future of the places they love. How it works, people scan a QR code near a site, raise their phone, and see the proposal one-to-one scale in AR. They can register for the places that they care about or stages of development that they care about, and get notified about proposed changes or any updates to the projects they are following. They never miss a chance. Today, the way we inform the public is with planning notice, usually hang somewhere behind the lot or behind a tree or somewhere that no one can see or understand what's in there. So we want to celebrate urban change and to make everyone able to see at any point through their phone the changes and explore them. And eventually in our project detail page, we add all the additional planning information that is there today, but very inaccessible. If that's the planning timeline, milestones, when is the next public hearing, when is the next big decision to be made, or the window to participate, clauses, links to documentation of that proposal, whether it's the environmental review, public hearing minutes and such. And through this, we hope to diversify the audience of participants exactly for the reason and for the goal to hear more voices, to bring more voices to the table, to encourage respectful conversation between the different voices. We know we will not cure NIMBYism, and our goal is not to reduce oppositions. Our goal is to bring as many voices as possible, because this is what cities are all about these different opinions. This is a short, I hope we see it better. Okay, I will show this later, I guess. Wait, why does it stuck? Okay, let's do this later. I will show in a minute a video of the app. The value, or we are getting into the planning process in 3 different phases, or all along it, but in 3 specific phases. The main, or the classic use of in situ is for the community engagement and public review stage between the submission and the approval. But we also have clients, mostly architecture firms, that use it internally for the conceptual design. So they basically design, drag it into the app, go outside, take a look, and go back to the planning table. And after approval, although it's not anymore for community input, but it's for community engagement and mitigation of their concerns from approval until it's built. And we have one client in Long Beach, which I will show in a minute, that uses it for exactly that. It's a construction site in the middle of downtown Long Beach, California. It's a hazard, and people are pretty mad about it. So they put the QR code there so people can see how it will look like and act in the actual place when it's built. And we truly believe that with the early and continuous and smart engagement, we will accelerate development and eventually also shorten planning cycles and timelines. Again, in order to make our cities much more efficient and adaptive, and more equipped to deal with any change they need to deal with. In terms of the adoption, we believe that our impact has the flywheel effect, that with more in situ adoption, more residents involved, and more efficient planning process, which will result in more adoption and more democratization of the planning process. We believe in this radical transparency. We believe that this transparency will result in better planning and in social and economic success to the planning process. Some examples of our first few pilots. So we launched this year the story of in situ, as Valerie said before. We are incubated inside of Eric Schmidt's social impact VC, Schmidt Futures. That's a 2 years residency, which started 14 months ago. And with their support, we were able to build the first version of the product and launch this May. Our partners were Community Board 5, Midtown West, and PAU Architects, Planning and Architecture, Practice for Architecture and Urbanism of Vishan. And the idea or the project there was PAU had came up with a proposal to relocate Madison Square Garden, move it a block and a half northeast to this block here that you see. Instead of this block, they proposed to have 93 floors, and the community board, which assessed this proposal, were mainly concerned about whether it's blocking the view to Empire State. Maybe this is a good time to show the video that didn't work before, so let me just find it. Wait. Okay, let's do this. Let me know if you see it. Okay. So this is the app. We are near Midtown, near the site, raising the phone to scan this block. And after a few seconds, the proposal is viewed in augmented reality. And as you can tell, their concerns are, I guess, in the right place, because it does, this proposal does block the view to Empire State. I must say that although, although the massive development, which we thought will bring major opposition and like anger of people, because if you tell people, hey, instead of this,
I'd like to start by bringing a blessing of the four directions.
oops, wait.
To the north, to Umi, with a cold.
Sorry about that. As I said, we thought we will get angry people because you propose to put 93 stories building instead of 5 or 7 stories here. And it blocks the view to Empire State. But people were basically more concerned about how will this building work with the ground level, with the street, what type of businesses will be here, where will the existing businesses will go to. And we were there, we launched this May, we were there for a week. Wait, this is, yeah. Here we used this on the actual community engagement and public review process. As said, we were there for a week in May. People scanned the QR and showed and view through their phones the project on site. 2 testimonials that I like to bring from these days, that week. One of them is this police officer that is working there for 29 years. And she said, wow, I've seen so much change here. This is the first time someone is asking me what I think. And it was very touching. The other guy is a young man. He rents an apartment nearby for the past few years. He was super enthusiastic and said, yes, of course, I'll use it. It's like a click away. I will tell them what I think about everything. So I asked him, hey, you seem to be very involved. Are you involved these days in city planning, in your neighborhood change? And he was like, no, why would I? I don't have a way to do that. And I told him, but you do. You have community board meetings and you have some planning hearings. And he was like, oh, no, wait, that's for old people. This is literally a click away. And it's very attractive. And of course, I'll use it. And these are only 2 people from the almost 60 folks that we had, that we succeeded to make them download the app and engage that week. Alongside demoing and showcasing the app, we collected some demographics of the users. We wanted to track who are this audience and the people who participate, with the hope to see that, to figure out that we truly diversify the process. And although this is only a first glance of one pilot, we are very happy with these initial results. We got younger, mixed income, mixed education level, and many more renters, more than 70% renters participating in the process. And this is a major change from the classic audience of city planning, which, as you may all assume, is skewed more towards the older cohort, white, affluent homeowners, and usually also male. So this makes us very happy. And of course, we continue to tracking these metrics. The second and third pilots happened last month in August. We were participating in an AR challenge in Long Beach, California. The city did this challenge of 16 augmented reality technologies that were spread out over a weekend in downtown Long Beach. And we got accepted to the competition and used that to find 2 real-world pilots. The first of them, and this will work, is used for the conceptual design. The client here was an architecture firm, and they use in situ to assess their own design before they share it with their clients, which are the developers and investors. this is how it looked, and it's ongoing these days. So we're keep getting feedback from them as we speak. And the next one was also a part of this competition, which this is an example of a post-approval pilot. It's called the Inkwell project. And again, this is what I talked about before. It's a construction site in the very middle of downtown Long Beach, a bit of a hazard as a construction site can be. And people now scanned an AR code and could view how it will look like on site in augmented reality. To conclude, why now? So we believe the political momentum is in the right direction, both from the private sector and public sector. We have the ARPA, the American Recovery Plan Act, funds from the Biden administration that gives money to state and local governments exactly for inclusive and equitable recovery. As you can see, the technology is here. Augmented reality, although the challenges, and I can speak a lot about the challenges of outdoors and urban scale augmented reality, it's getting better and better every day and becomes ubiquitous. And the way I see it, for several years, I feel that it's unreasonable that AR and VR are being used for gaming and selfies, and it's time for them to change the world. And I believe we're going in the right direction. And of course, it's urgent. Public health, climate change, we cannot allow our cities to be stagnated and counterproductive in their planning process and exclusive. It costs us lives, and we must change that. And I truly believe that technology can and must today transform the fight about planning into a conversation, a respectful one, a fruitful one, and that this top-down profession, which is city planning, can today be balanced with smart bottom-up input thanks to technology. I hope it was clear. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions. I will stop share now.
That was great. Thank you so much. I'll start us off. So I've been involved, I was very involved in housing as my career for a long time. So I know the process well, and obviously, or maybe not obviously, but everything you say rings true with me. I know how it's worked. I was part of it. And I see the great opportunity in your new approach. That all being said, I wonder whether, because all of this ends up being a public process, right? Zoning in the end is a governmental process, and there's zoning boards, each city has its own process. But in the end, it is a vote by elected officials. And I wonder, have you thought about how you give this voice more amplification so that it doesn't just become, well, the people on the zoning board say, well, we have all this input here, and then we have this input from this app, but let's vote anyway. And then, the people who actually have influenced the process are the developers, the people with the money, the political people. So clearly, you have created the tools that can enable communities to be heard. Have you thought a little bit about how you can take the voices that you're getting and make them have more impact?
Yes, of course. And that's why I think my challenge as the CEO of this company is not only the technological challenge, but the regulation and the political and, of course, business challenge. And I think that the approach of using all the stakeholders group at any point of the process is a must to succeed with our mission, because let's say we go only for the developers, and yes, we have the business reason to sell to them. They are required by law to do community engagement. It's a better one, it's easier, If, as you said, the public sector or the city agencies or the city officials will not accept that, we have nothing basically, and it's useless. And if we don't have the city with us to confirm that, to verify that all the information that is viewed through the app is true, so we are only shoot ourselves in the leg here and bringing more dishonesty into the process. And that's why my hope is to get to the point where cities adopt this product. We're in the beginning of our journey, of course. So at this point, we go project by project, although we just signed our first city client with Centennial, Colorado. So that would be an amazing experience to see how we can implement in situ from the city side. But then, as you said, even if the city acknowledges and accepting this, how do we make this voice have just more impact? And the answer here is that I think it's a process. Even today, when you come to a planning hearing, you raise your voice, you have the right to do so. No one is required to accept any this or that opinion, which is okay. I want to believe that with many opinions on the table and with smart analytics of these opinions, and this is I haven't talked about, but we give as well to our either the city or the developer and architects analytics of the public sentiment and what are the major concerns of the public. I do believe that it can shift the conversation towards what's important. If today the best we can do with communicating our designs, and when I say our, is architects or developers or planners, is renderings, and it's usually from the bird's eye view, and none of us is a bird, so what do we care really, and why? Like sometimes the fight is whether we have 2 more floors there or not, and sometimes if you put someone in the street, you cannot really tell the difference. And at the end of the day, people are concerned about how it will impact how it will affect my housing prices, whether it's their house value or their rent. Will it be safe for me or my daughters to walk there in the streets? How will the traffic in 8 a.m. every morning look like, and what type of coffee shops and businesses will be there? Or of course, shades and stuff like that. And these are things that through augmented reality, bringing the future to the right scale and the right place, naturally shifts the conversation towards the right issues. Of course, we keep tracking how this evolves and goes, but this is my hope and plan.
I raise this not to be pessimistic, but to be optimistic.
I know, and these concerns are what will drive our success at the end. We need to think about all the blind spots that could fail this, because many times eventually technology or any innovative even regulation gets used by the already empowered people, and that's not my goal. My goal is to really give single moms and essential workers the ability to raise their voice and be part of what's going on, although they don't have the time to come to planning hearings from 6 to 9 p.m.
Right. Well, I think it makes me optimistic too, because, in the end, almost everybody who lives in a city has to live with all the other people in the city. And almost everybody in the city lives with compromises, rich, poor, and in between. So it's not like suburbs or rural areas where potentially I could be better off with no development at all. And so all I have to do is say no and hold the line long enough and nothing happens. Something's always happening in a city, no matter what you do. Exactly. And you move into the middle of chaos to begin with. So you've already said, okay, but in the long run, I want to live in Brooklyn and it's good and all that. It's not perfect, but so I think there is a city mentality of you have to deal with reality and you have to compromise and you don't get everything you want. So that if you can show them this is what at this point you're going to get and you can see what it's going to cost me, maybe it motivates and empowers you if this app ultimately turns out to say, well, like you said, it was an interesting thing for me to think about. If you add a few stories, in many cases, it doesn't quote unquote matter to you.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something I'm willing to give up if I get affordable rent levels.
Yep.
So if they can build, you know, $3 $50 million apartments on top stories, and the deal is that they have low rents on the first 20 floors,
yeah,
maybe for a lot of people that says, hey, that's okay with me.
Yeah.
I don't really care if I could see the Empire State Building or not. I don't look at it anyway. So I think that, again, that idea of information and trade-offs, the more that, you know, you can do that of saying, this is the way it is, this is the way it will be. How can we move the chess pieces around and see what's optimal?
Yep. Thank you. I see two more questions that I want.
Yeah, please go.
Get to. Philip, you raised your hand first.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I've got an app design question. It looks like when you create this AR application, you're doing a detailed architectural rendering of the structure. I'm out here in Culver City, which is an area of Los Angeles, and our city council is looking to rezone the entire city, which has all the homeowners up in arms. Is the app able, or are you able to essentially simplify the design so you could cookie cutter for the entire city and have it keyed to GPS position so people could see what their homes and their neighborhoods are going to look like when they get upzoned? Because right now it's just a debate between the YIMBYs and the NIMBYs, and it's basically alienating the entire community. So is the app appropriate for that, or can you recommend a simplified another app
definitely.
for that?
The technology itself is pretty agnostic to what kind of model you put there. And this is exactly the challenge now we're doing with Centennial Colorado. They were going to showcase their a rezoning of few blocks. And because it's only messes, we don't want to show detailed design, and we don't also want to show like a huge boxes that will scare people. So we think, and our team also can support with the 3D modeling and the AR experience itself. We think of how is the best way, what is the best way to show that, whether it's something transparent that shows like the heights, or maybe something on the ground floor on top of the built environment. So yes, definitely capable of that. I think the challenge here is not technological, it's more of perception of people and what do you need, like to figure out exactly what you need to communicate and how to make them seamlessly understand and respond to the issue, and not like if you try to put materials on them on just their rezoning, people can say, hey, but don't put wood there, and it's not even on the table. So you need to be very smart about how you communicate this.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Monica, yes.
Sorry, I was unmuting myself. Thank you so much for this presentation. It's very informative and incredible to listen to. And something that I'm thinking about with the technology of this, it automatically is for folks who have smartphones. And I'm wondering, is there any thought about how to engage with people who don't have that? Can there be a way for them to go to their local library and go on the computer and see the design there? Or how do those folks know that a design is in the process for their area? And oftentimes I feel like people don't even know a plan is happening until they see the construction signs and until they see that. So how can we engage those people?
Sure. I'm sorry for the barking here. And what you said right now about people do not know until they see the construction is exactly what I try to change, because the minute people can see it in their eyes, it's too late for them to participate and to make any change. And I want, with this QR and celebrating urban change, I hope to bring the same experience, but in a relevant phase of the process. So people walk by, they know if they're already signed up to the app, they can get push notification like, hey, something nearby, take a look. But yes, you're right, it's only for smartphone. At this point, it's also the first version that we launch is only iOS, but we now, at the end of the year, we will launch the Android one too, which, as you probably know, the lower income communities are more towards Android than Apple. So that's a very important phase to get to. And then, yes, there are people without smartphone, and we hope that at least at initiation of every project, we will do some kind of a demo, even standing there with an iPad or some devices that you can share. But then also through the development website, and most big developments have their website, you will have there both the link to download the app and see the project live in AR, but also just a video of the AR and how it looks. And that's how people will be able to see it. I take into consideration that some of these people do not have even the knowledge of how to access these landing pages of these development websites. And that's why we care about this demoing and do some active community engagement. But yeah, that's the idea.
Is that your dog?
Yes, that's my dog. That's Bella. She's a perfect dog, but she barks on.
That's why I have to come to the office, because if I'm at home,
Yeah,
my dog takes over.
but at least there is cool. So
Yeah.
the other creatures you cannot hear it right now. Yeah, good that school is back.
We have time for one more question or comment. Anyone? Last chance here. We stop at 1 o'clock. Valerie, do you have something to say in your own defense?
I'm good, but I see there's a comment in chat. Is that
Yes, I see it now. Yes, totally, Philip, you're right that there are these goggles. In purpose, I try to not go towards the goggles solution, because I want it to be something very familiar to people. But as a demo, like as a part of the demoing, we could get to this either bunch of iPads or other devices, and but goggles too. But as an app, we don't intend to make it goggle based, at least not before all people have their smart glasses by default.
I have a question.
Yes.
How did you come to the place where you felt technology is how city planning can advance and catch up to technologies changes that are happening on the micro level, and with Uber, Lyft, or other devices that enable different changes in our habits and behaviors in cities? Why did you feel that technology advancement would also be the solution for the city level, for how we go into the future? Does technology enable other technologies to come? Is that what your thinking was?
So first, coming from the background of using technology to transform a very risky and complex process of in-flight training malfunctions. And I was the second cohort that brought the F-15 simulator to Israel. So I kind of saw how it required the whole sector to be educated towards how we now train and how we do things in a smart way. And we had a couple of cases there that we helped solve real flight problems with the simulator in real time and help save lives. So to me, after this, becoming an architect and coming to city planning, I felt that someone took me 1,000 years back. I was like, whoa, like how can this process, which that is so so important, so meaningful and complex, cannot use data or like be not at all evidence-based. I felt that decisions are being made like this, like where the wind goes, politically or whatever, without incorporating enough knowledge. And I was always on top of what technology or innovation is doing out there, and kept thinking to myself that at least what technology can do to this highly regulated profession and very, very top-down profession is to enable a better view or a smart view of the bottom-up and the many types of inputs that are required to make better decisions. And I think with all due respect to like the low-tech engagement, and I think nothing can change walking down the streets and speaking with residents, technology can improve that and can allow us to listen to many more voices. I am the first one to say, like, question your data and don't believe anything the data shows, like go speak with people and see it in your eyes. But I think that we cannot, I mean, we can not use technology. That's how we perform for many years, but that will only result in other forces shape our cities for us as planners or designers. And if we want to take control of the process, we must use technology to the purpose of democratizing and to bringing more voices to the table. And technology can do that today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it's an absolutely great answer, and I always believed we should end on a high note. So I want to thank everyone for attending. Thank you particularly, Dana, for just an incredible presentation.
Thank you.
Hope that some, if not all of you, will join us next week and for many weeks thereafter as we continue the series. And look, in the next few weeks, Dana's presentation should be up and live on our site for you to send other people to and share what we've all been able to enjoy today. So Valerie, any last words for today?
Just thank you and gratitude, and I hope you join us for another talk soon.